Welcome to the Martial Way podcast. This week I got a kind of a special guest. It wasn't planned out. Guys from Karate Culture. The way this kind of took place was I was trying to contact them about setting up an official podcast. Hadn't heard back, so I checked this morning after I woke up on a Sunday morning. I look and find out that they're about 30 minutes from my house, which, if you know anything geographically, I'm in Canada. These guys are in towards the southern U.S., so I was pretty blown away at the coincidence. So I jumped in my car and came out. They were happy enough, or I was glad enough and lucky enough that they said yes to letting me interview them after. So I tracked them to their hotel, guerrilla style journalism, and here we are. So Michael, Aaron, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Let me start off by saying that I've been following you guys for I guess a couple of years. How long have you been doing this?
For about 2 years now.
Yeah, so probably since the inception. And one of the reasons for me was, and I think we'll talk about it in a second, was that karate became kind of watered down a little bit, and the reputation of it. And then when I saw that you guys doing stuff, and I love actually with the clips between the connection between MMA and bunkai karate, that really captured my attention, and I started following. But I want to turn it over to you guys first, just to do a little bit of an intro, how your backgrounds and how you got involved. Whoever wants to go first, Mike.
Sure, I can go first. So I started out actually in Kung Fu when I was a little kid. It was with my family that put me into it, and they also trained in it as well. It was just that memory kind of stuck with me, and I was the only one that continued on. So I did Kung Fu when I was really young, and then continued on when I was in middle school.
Where is that, in Texas?
Yeah, back in Texas. I grew up around in the Dallas area.
Yeah.
So that was all in Dallas.
Yeah.
And then I moved to California around high school, and luckily I found like this after-school program run by police officers. So they were all just they were trained martial artists. They had black belts of different styles, and they were doing this free program teaching high school kids. So I was able to learn tons of different little systems like Kyokushin, Kaji Kempo, Shotokan, Shorin-Ryu, all of these Eskrima, stuff like that, and all of them, it was a free service after school. So then when that thing kind of ended, I looked for martial arts, and I was lucky to find a Shorin-Ryu dojo. From there, I haven't stopped doing Shorin-Ryu. So even after I moved from California back to Texas, I found a Shorin dojo, and that's where we found our sensei.
Right. And that's a good segue to you, Aaron. So you guys, I assume, then didn't know yourselves growing up at that age. You met later on. So what are you and your martial background?
So I'm from South Texas, little city town called McAllen.
You guys don't have that Texas accent that
it comes out.
I was waiting. Oh yeah.
It depends.
Yo,
more beer.
Yeah.
More of that southern drawl starts to come out, and I was saying y'all a lot, and wrecking, and all this kind of stuff.
I met a guy recently from Texas, and he just talked about how it's like everything's a little bit slower.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry.
Yeah. That's all good.
So your martial arts background though in Texas.
Okay, so I guess like first thing I ever did was like Taekwondo.
Yeah.
When I was like,
Me too.
Hell, I was like 12, 11, I don't know, really young. And then that stopped. And then when I was in like junior high school, I found this dude and his dad, and they were like Shotokan practitioners. So I trained with them, and we kind of built up like a small school with various friends of mine from like high school, and we would go to like other places like Laredo and go to other like kind of like pseudo tournaments, testing kind of stuff. Did that for a while. Then when I went to college, that kind of like died down. Then I found some Muay Thai classes, did that for a while until I decided like, well, if I'm going into like anything in the healthcare system, I kind of need more brain cells to function. So I stopped doing that. It's kind of like a decision. You have to make life choices, you know. So that ended, and then when I came back, I just, I hadn't done any kind of martial arts for like I guess a couple of years, and then I was like, dude, you need to find something. And I found that Shorin-Ryu class where I met Michael, and so and then that was like I came back from like college. Actually, there I was doing like some judo and stuff like that when I was up during my pharmacy scholastic career, and and then after that, since then we've been kind of like doing Shorin-Ryu pretty much specifically Michael does a lot of jiu-jitsu, like BJJ. And he's
We have a wrestling instructor.
wrestling
India.
instructor
Oh,
we met
terrific.
with for stuff like that.
So what was the inception? What was the seed, if you will, for karate culture? Like how did that? All...
So the idea is like karate nowadays is so overly formalized to the point where it's like no one ever dares to question their sensei. Right? No one ever dares to question this technique is taught this way, and you're only going to learn that for the rest of your life, right? But our sensei, the sensei we trained under was
Who and what's his name?
Manuel Guerra.
Okay.
He's a Army his whole life, ex Green Beret, Special Forces, and after he got out of that, he was a Border Patrol agent.
Sure, this is still good.
So he really brought that like real life situation, real reality based kata application. So like we were talking about during lunch today,
Yeah.
he would come to class and be like, I use this movement in this kata to arrest these people coming over the border today.
Right.
Like the one you just learned last week, well, I used it.
yeah,
Right? Like how do you question that? You know?
Yeah.
And then his big thing was like a conceptual based approach to martial arts.
Right.
So when you learn concepts, when you learn principles, then you could really build your own techniques upon that because it's all based on human movements, on body mechanics, on physics, you know.
Mhm.
And then once we understood that kind of opened the gateway to us being able to look outside just karate and just like, oh wow, this jiu-jitsu move looks like this movement in our karate kata, right? This judo moves looks like blah, blah, blah. And then we started seeking out other instructors. You want to add on to
Yeah,
that?
I mean, like you look at like for a while, I know we were both just kind of scouring the internet and YouTube for like, I would look up like old, I would look for like old Muay Thai and old Muay Boran
Yeah.
clips and stuff like that, and I would see like, dude, like this is the same. It's the same stuff. Like, I mean,
Body only can move so many ways.
so many different ways. Yeah. So, yeah, it just and then you look at like that. You look at like styles like Hungar,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Shaolin Long Fist
Yeah.
and things like that. You're like, dude, there's just so many things that transition from one style to the other. It's
Like
just
more similarities than there are differences.
Exactly. It's it's like it's kind of like if you're into art and stuff like that, like the idea of painting and drawing, whether you're using like charcoal, graphite, Conte, watercolor, acrylic, you're still using values to create an image, right? Like, I mean, that's still one of the basic tenets of like shadow and value, using that to create the image versus just using line, and you can use line work too, but it's like these overlying principles which make them all very similar in how you apply them versus just like, painting's completely different from, drawing. It's like, well, it is, but there's still things that are overlying principles that connect the two, right? That's why like even like some, like my dad's really he was an art teacher before he was actually, before he became principal. And so like now that he's going back to doing art and stuff like that again, he's always like, everything that I ever sculpt or whatever, I draw it first, right? Like everything that I've ever, like it just helps with the study of that image, right? So like, why would you then in your martial arts like confine yourself to just like one thought process or one way of looking at stuff? It really kind of closes you off.
Well, that's a good segue into something I had heard. Actually, something you just said too that remind me of it. When you were looking at those moves, whether it be an MMA or something, you go, "Hey, that kind of looks like."
Right.
So I've heard critics that say, "Well, people, not just to yourselves, but people who are like doing bunkai or anything or kata, dismantling kata and trying to, they're just trying to make it fit."
Right.
Oh, right, yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
So, and then to flip of that, well, if bunkai really works or if the katas really work, why don't we see it in MMA? How come you don't see any fighters doing it? And my thing is like, I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Like literally almost every move that I see, you can, coming from some kata, you'll find something similar somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, it's just there. So to me, and we discussed a little bit earlier today, I don't know if that's just a mentality that you just can't change that person's mind, or how do you open their eyes to see that? Because for me, I don't think that you're doing that. I don't think you're looking at these things and just trying to retrofit it to something you're already doing.
Right.
No.
I think it's there.
It's there. It's just like it's because like the formula exists. It's like if you look at theoretical physics, right? Like they work backwards a lot, right?
Yeah.
You come up with the theory, and then you start applying stuff that you know to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, I know this exists. Let me look at the stuff that I'm using and see like oh yeah, like that is already there. Okay, so I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of a deal. So it's like, you know, you don't have to like search to make it fit. Like those movements are the reason why people, I guess, get stuck on it is because they were already put like into a box.
Exactly.
You know, they were put into a box and it said like, well, that is this movement. Well, what if like instead of me saying like an outside foreign block or an inside foreign block, what if I just never said it was that? What if I just said anytime somebody grabs you by the shoulder or puts an arm across, you're raking your arm over the side of it, and you're using that motion with it, whether your hand is open or closed or a fist or whatever.
Very smart.
Yeah, it's like that's what you're doing, and you'd be like, well, that's like an arm drag. Well, it's like, well, yeah, no duh.
Yeah.
You call it that, we call it this. It's
Right.
It's just that you had a group of people who were promoting one style for a very long time, and it was only conceptualized in one way,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how it just kept on going from there. But that doesn't mean that they were right 100% of the time, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's how it originally started.
Right.
You know, and when you look at that stuff, and you look at like how fights really are, like it would stand to reason that that's not what all those movements really are. So like are the thing that we've come to the idea that like, well, most of that stuff is grappling and grip fighting
Mm-hmm.
with strikes in between.
Mhm.
Right? That's why you do a kata and like 80% of it is movements,
Mhm.
and you know the other 20% is a couple of strikes like here and there. You know, it's not all just striking. So yeah, if you just look at it that way instead of trying to put it into like fit your box, you know, like then yeah, it makes way more sense. And then it's better. Like that's the thing I don't get about people who say that. It's like, number one, I don't know where your hate's coming from.
Right.
And number two, like number two, it can help you.
Yeah.
Like just learning, just when you try to think about it a little bit the way I think about it, and you'll see how like it'll apply better for you in your situation, right? Like you'll see like, oh crap, well yeah, if I tweak this way, it does work better, you know, here. So
Well, one of the other, I don't say arguments, but one of the other, what's the word I'm looking for?
debates.
Yeah, that people have around this stuff that I personally have come across is that this stuff can't be effective because you're not practicing it enough, or you're not practicing it in a realistic way enough.
Mm.
Whereas if you're doing something like a jab or a round kick or something, it is something that you're doing over and over.
Right.
So it starts to become second nature. But if you have a complex movement within a kata or something, unless you do that 1,000 times or 10,000 times,
Right.
where it becomes second nature, you're never going to use it. So
Right.
what do you say to that?
I completely
That's
agree.
true. That's
Yeah.
100% true.
I do too. So the answer is to train for
To
it.
train it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all how you're training that thing. Like we were talking about that today, like at the seminar, right? It's like I was telling them like these movements under different levels of stress, they come out and they make you do different stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's not gonna always look the same. So if you can move their arm this way, somebody who's stronger doesn't let you move their arm, so then you still are completing the ends. The look of the end of the movement is still the same, but you're moving your body around them versus you moving them around your body.
Mhm.
And when you tell people instead of that, and you tell people like this is only this, they're like, why can't you? They already closed off the idea of being able to do that, right? So that application never comes across, you know, and it's been like that for decades, right? So
I know that another argument is like the compliant partner, right?
The compliant partner, yes, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
And yet when we watch jiu-jitsu videos, like
You had to have a compliant
Yeah.
partner.
But then
So this karate gets slammed for it.
right, and
Yeah.
there needs to be levels with it, right? You
Yeah.
need a compliant partner to rep out to get the muscle memory.
Yeah.
Then that partner turns out the progressive resistance so that you can actually figure out how it actually works.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that's making you guys so popular and it's resonating with a lot of people is that your stuff though does look more realistic. So a lot of the more traditional videos that I've seen of people breaking down kata, doing any kind of application, they're still doing it from those very traditional,
Yeah.
stances. Where you guys, you don't look like, take this in the nicest way. You don't look pretty.
Right.
Like you're
Thank
fighting.
you.
Yeah. You're looking. It looks dirty fighting. You're grabbing. There's shots coming in. There's jabs. It's flowing. There's no
And honestly,
rigidity in it.
I
And
feel
to
like-
me, that's amazing. I think that's resonating with a lot of people.
and that comes with like understanding how your body moves.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
movement body mechanics. That's why we begin our seminars with like an hour of just ground maneuvers, ground
Cool.
mobility stuff, right?
I wish I could the seminar. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
man. Next time, dude.
Next
like,
time,
yeah, like, cause that's like just straight up warm ups for the beginning. Like every time that we do it, just because we like it helps us assess like what everybody's levels at.
Right.
What they
that
can do.
would be a good one. Yeah.
And then it helps us also like transition the ideas that we're going to cover like later on, like
Like imagine if you had a brand new white belt right off the street, and you gave him a 6-month course on just how his body works
Mm-hmm.
before you do anything that looks relatively combative.
Mm-hmm.
And then he can take that understanding of how his body works and go into any other style and adopt that way of movement, right?
You know what, you're going to have a challenge against that? I just saw, this is another thing that drives me crazy about like martial arts, and that, again, I'm so happy you guys are on the scene. I saw an ad the other day for an online karate school.
Right.
Get your black belt online in 12 months.
Yeah.
It's and when you just said, like, the complete opposite of that. Take somebody just for 6 months and do nothing, just have them learn their body. What a difference that is, and that's where it goes from that McDojo kind of mentality to what you guys are actually doing. So yeah, I'm thankful for that.
That's a hard dynamic that we discussed too. Like, how to make a business out of something that you believe in, but that it's not very gratifying instantly, right?
Right.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You can't tell somebody like there's no cheating here, right? Like you're not going to learn. You're not going to get the technique perfect. And the majority of the time, it's not going to come off pretty imperfect, and it's going to take you a while to make it work. You know, versus telling somebody, yeah, this is how you throw a punch. Anybody can throw a punch, and it
learn this form and you get a belt next week.
Yeah.
So,
where do you want to take it? Or do you know yet? Is it just like there's no destination yet? You're just like, this is.
We know, man.
Okay. Can you share where you want to take it, or is it still top secret?
No, there's nothing we could discuss it.
Yeah,
and talk about it.
Like, I mean, like the end goal is like basically like creating like a giant like rural community of like martial arts under like the idea that it's all God, it's all martial arts.
Yeah.
Right? But really bringing back the idea of like we're all like a big giant community. There doesn't need to be like a ton of boundaries between us.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying that that's supposed to be like I'm not saying like people who do Shotokan should throw away that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People who do Kyokushin should throw away that.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is like we can all pull stuff that we like from like one another and use it to benefit like everybody, right? Kind of a deal.
You gotta mention tribalism before, right? Like,
yes.
How big do you want your tribe? Is it just your study group? Is it just your dojo? Is it just your organization?
Yeah.
And our tribe is the umbrella term of martial arts.
Yeah.
Right. Like if we met at a kung fu school, it would be kung fu culture or something.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
It'd be the same thing.
Same mentality.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so that end goal is to have a global community that we're all good with each other, no ego, meet up, train, exchange knowledge. Locally is to have our own dojo, which we're working on, because it kind of works two ways, right? Because there's people who are already martial artists who exist in their own community. So then if we can help influence that to spread that positivity, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the next generation that we also need to influence as well. And the only way to influence younger people is to be there all the time for them.
Yeah.
And having that headquarters, home location that we can call the karate culture headquarters, right?
Yeah.
Like, that would be a perfect thing. And you want to tell them how we want to run the classes?
Yeah, so I mean the classes at some point we're kind of like getting around to the idea of getting into where basically like your class is encompassed with everything. So you're like bringing back the idea of doing hojo undo like during your class, but even like weight training in your class. And I was telling them like Michael also has like a background, like he used to do breakdancing back in the day. I used to do gymnastics when I was a kid.
That's an amazing marriage into what you're doing now.
Yeah, so the idea is when I told them, I was like, you know, when we get a student, like we want to build students who can compete or and survive like in any arena.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Like imagine one of your students going to a jiu-jitsu tournament and representing your karate dojo, right? And still being able to hold his own.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Going to a taekwondo student or competition and still being able to hold his own. Going to
Goosebumps, actually, that's pretty cool.
Dude,
right?
yeah. I mean, like, why
That's the
not?
dream, right?
Why not?
Why not? Like, I mean, if I'm able to do yoga now, like grab my hands behind my back and push up into a handstand, and I taught myself how to do that, right?
Right.
If I've learned how to do, if I'm 35 and I can do mills, and I just learned how to do it. They're sloppy. Don't get me wrong. They're not fucking.
But they're there.
No, they're there. I can do them. There's no reason then that I feel that I can't teach somebody how to use their body and how to do that stuff themselves and become a great martial artist and learn how to, like, you know, bench press their own body weight, you know, all this kind of stuff. So it's like really like trying to get some making people like just, you know, like juggernauts up and on into themselves, right? Just
the complete holistic approach.
Yeah.
Complete. Yeah, exactly.
Everything. Like you can do basic tumbling, you can do basic breaking, you can do yoga, you can do jiu-jitsu, you can do point karate, you can sit in there and bang with a Kyokushin practitioner, and you can knock heads with a Muay Thai guy. Like, why not?
Yeah.
You know, if you have that ability, and the idea behind, like, when we open the school is to bring in like other people, like, because I'm not saying I've done some basic Muay Thai, I've learned stuff, so I remember and I'm able to apply it, but I'm not the best. So like when we get there and we're having the thing, it's gonna be like, we're gonna get people, and we're gonna be like, we're gonna have a seminar here. We're gonna get our students. Everybody's gonna be savvy, right? Everybody's gonna know and have all these basic building blocks on top of the stuff that we're feeding them.
Right. Weirdly for me, this sounds like more like what I think originally what karate would have been.
Yeah,
totally. Like it's like it morphed off into these weird little things. But I mean, you think of, if I think of the times of, like, especially if you trace even back to Okinawa or whatever, it would have been for reasons of combat, self-defense, and all these components, and you would have had to have been working on. There's no way you'd be, well, I don't do grappling and stuff, so I'm gonna. No, you have to. What happens if you get? Go to the ground. Like, it has to be a part of what your system is. And somewhere along the line, it seems like that was kind of lost.
Our slogan has always been bringing back the old ways. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And how far back do you want to go? Well, we're going to go back to where it was meant to be.
Well, and on that realm, so do you guys, when you're looking at like the applications within the kata, are you actually tracking down and trying to find what the bunkai is, or are you kind of making something up yourselves, or what you think, you know, through kinesiology or just movement, what it could be?
There's a little
or
both.
Bland.
Sometimes it's like keep it simple, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes what it was taught as might actually be what it was.
Right.
Sometimes it's what it was taught as is like completely outlandish. What's cool about our progression is it was just play. It was just like they say in jiu-jitsu, it's time on the mat. Right?
Yeah.
There was a moment in time where we were meeting up hours every day for like a stretch of a couple of years, and then we would have those light bulb moments. That was the thing. And the kata applications happens during the play and after the fact.
Right.
So it's not like, oh, let me try to apply this in this motion here. It's let's move around. Let's see where the locks happen. Take the person away. Oh crap! This looks like this movement in kata.
Mm-hmm.
Recreate that,
replicate it,
and then let's drill that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're kind of like creating like doing like a scientific approach to like breaking down the kata, and then like looking at it. Like the idea came, like, I think when we started thinking, like, you know, what if the guys who came up with these forms just basically, like, you know, you see like two guys just scrumming going at it, and you're just like, oh wow, that guy did that. Oh, that worked. You think if you did it again, it would work?
Right. Yeah.
And then you try it out. Or you do it again. Oh, it worked. Okay, let me make that part of like a thing, right? Like, then you can see there's natural progressions to things, like, you know, when you see like wrestlers have natural progressions in movements, like flow drills that they do. Jiu-jitsu has flow drills, things that just make sense. They go one thing to the next thing to the next thing, right? It just makes sense. So you just kind of start piecing things together based like on just human anatomy and like what's going on how much tension you have at that point in time or how much speed you're applying. And what's really cool is like even earlier on, like there's kind of like more people to kind of mess around with. Like, you know, there was like students that were like around our size or students that were like younger than us, skinnier than us. We also had like a couple of students that were larger than us. Like there was Acevedo was like 6'3" or 6'4". Like that guy's huge. So working with him was kind of neat because it gives you the ability to see like, well, how does this work with somebody who's like really tall and like is you know, just this big dude, you know. So it's pretty cool, you know, as far as like working at it that way. It was super rare if we ever like took a thing and said, well, I'm gonna just apply it this way. Like the only times anything like that happened is if we were like you know, when we do like the spam the down block, right? So sometimes we would do this thing where we'd be like, okay, you kick punch at me, you know, go like 50-70%, whatever you want, somewhere around there. Try your best not to knock me out, and I'm just going to spam down blocks as any way that I can, right? So I'm not going to stay 100% true to like how it looks, but any way that I can dig my arm down, bring it across, or whatever, and you start finding out like, well, crap, I don't have to just use it like that. Like I can use it as a way to swing your arm across me, right? Like kind of a deal. So doing that like started opening up a lot of windows, like, right? So
you're taking it outside of just that. Like so many people just focus on the kata itself, going through all the movements of the kata, but not actually trying to apply it or trying to. So again, you guys are
when it
you're
degrades,
taking it into the lab, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? When it degrades is when you teach someone an application that you never tried yourself.
Yeah.
You know, imagine that for generations.
Well, exactly.
And it's like, you know, people think like we've never tried. Like we put on stuff on video because that's the stuff we put because that's what we have time to put.
Yeah.
But I mean, we both have tried those techniques like when we roll,
right,
and when we do takedowns, like and stuff like that, like in BJJ, and they work because they're the same thing. It's like when I was rolling with what's his face, and he was like, "Oh, how'd you know how to do that?" Because like I was wearing like white belt, because I mean technically I am,
right.
And he was like, "How'd you know how to do it?" I was like, "Well, that's from karate, man. That's just pulling your arm across this way. I'm just pinning it to your chest. I mean, that's cool. Not anything different."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Huh." I was like, "Yeah, it works when you're standing up too." And he was like, "Huh." And I showed him. He was like, "Okay, all right, well, cool, all right." I was like, "Yeah, man. Like, I mean, there's not every single thing translates, but a lot of stuff does, man."
Well, even the fact that you were able to have that conversation with him, and then work through that, and the removal of egos there too.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool in and of itself.
Yeah.
So you're finishing. You did this seminar here. Do you have anything more planned?
Not for the rest of the year. We have something scheduled next February in California, and then we're in talks with our buddy Jeremy in North Carolina.
That's right.
So we might schedule that. Someone contacted us for the UK next year as well.
So.
I know, like I said, I know there has to be a huge appetite that's coming for this stuff. There are a few people that are doing. I'm not going to get his name right. Maybe you guys know Ian.
Abernethy?
Ian Abernethy in from the UK. And a lot of stuff he's doing, which was pretty cool. And there was obviously an appetite for that. So, what's the response been for you guys? Are you getting a lot of people contacting you for not just seminars, but just for picking your brain or thanking you or whatever the case may be?
It's daily. It comes in daily.
See,
and that's always
that says a lot.
Yeah, that's amazing to see because we're just two guys in a garage making videos, you know.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see like, oh wow, you changed my approach to martial arts. You're hearing things like that.
It's got to be amazing.
Yeah, that makes it like, you know, it definitely makes it worth it. I mean, I'd still be doing it anyways, but it definitely is like, gives us more of a reason to like continue, you know, because every time somebody's like, you know, like, dude, I never thought about it like that. Like that makes so much more sense than this. It's like, yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been successful, right? And so,
Absolutely.
you know, we definitely appreciate like when anybody likes like do like, you know, like thank you or whatever. Like it's pretty cool.
Well, it's been definitely a huge thank you for me, and even now, even talking to you guys, like I love the idea that you're saying about, you know, building that culture of like blending of different styles and different whatever, and not being so pigeon-toed into what your box and what you work on. It's something that I think if those walls could come down, it'd be a lot better.
And the biggest thing is like people have tried that before, but they've created their own style to do it.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Why the hell did you do that? You know? Like,
That's a really good point, actually.
And then they call it, they like name it after
they become the
themselves,
10th degree,
and they're like the dude. It's dude,
yeah.
like come on, get off, like.
There you go. Well, this when ego walks in the door again, right?
Yeah.
Well, what about the people who say, well,
Right. If it's based on kata, you're good to go.
Yeah.
If you're throwing away kata and just drilling like every other MMA school, then you're in MMA school.
You're in MMA school. Yeah.
So would you say that's the difference between, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, sport versus like a classical martial art?
Yeah, well, anytime
like
you
kickboxing
put
versus karate kind of thing.
anytime you put a rule set into how you're able to move, like you figure out ways how to
abuse that.
Right, I see where you're going.
Right.
And excel at
that rule set. Right.
Yeah.
So like, you know, like it's the whole idea of like, well, if my knee's on the ground, kind of a deal, or my hands touching the floor.
Yeah, there's a rule in MMA that like they can't kick you if one hand's on the ground.
Right.
I'd say like
Or Norwa.
No,
this one's
elbows,
12 to 6,
yeah.
which is so ridiculous, but that's a whole side.
Yeah. So I mean, like that. Just none of that stuff really applies to like in real life, right? There's no ref on the street telling you.
Can you train for real life?
Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there. I've had my stuff. Like I do my best to like. Yeah, it's all in the past.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened in years, decades. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you can train to get that same kind of ferocity, and you can train for those kind of situational encounters. The thing is to not get to again not box yourself into the idea of like I'm only training for one kind of situation.
Yeah, and this technique can only work in one situation.
You have to be like fully adaptive. Right?
That was one thing. So my art before this was Kempo, and was one thing that, and I actually loved it. I think I spoke to you guys before. It lacked enough physical contact for me, but the actually application and stuff was pretty cool, and being able to flow. And it was trying to get that mentality across to people that if your technique doesn't work, don't freeze there. It can still just keep it moving and flow into whatever comes next naturally. Right. And even if it does look sloppy, whatever, it could get you out of a pissy situation. Yeah. I was actually speaking, I had a guest recently, Terry Burkert, who's a Kyokushin guy from UK. He's a teacher, has his own dojo there. And that's one of the things that he's been trying to move into now is he coined this phrase. Again, Terry, I hope I don't get this. I might get this wrong because he may have stolen from someone else. Was to make karate dangerous again, and what he meant by that was this: something happened. Like karate, it did have a reputation back in the day, whatever that day was. But even as a kid, when I remember, like I was born in the '70s and moved into the '80s, like there was a reputation around it. Somewhere along the line, I think BJJ was an amazing thing. Came on with the UFC, and people showed the holes and tons of different stuff, and it became super popular. But then after, something happened to karate. And I don't know what it was or why it happened. I don't know if
they're trying to survive.
I guess trying to that's
niche in the market.
Yeah, that might be it. But something happened where it just became a joke. It became soft. And so he's on this quest, like I said. And he worked as a doorman in the UK for 20 years. And he talks about that, like having to apply stuff, and he quickly found out what works and doesn't work. Yeah. And he's like, lots of this works. It really, really does. And if it doesn't, you just throw it out and just move on to whatever. Exactly. Yeah. And it sounds like, so this is the same thing that you guys are doing. So I think there is a movement that's happening to bring it back to, whether you want to say bring it back to the roots or bring it back to what it was meant to be. Are you guys seeing it as well? Like you're doing it. And you sounds like you were doing it. I feel like I'm talking too much now, but it sounds like you guys were doing it out of necessity, but now are you finding other people doing it as well? Whether you influence them or not, are you coming across it?
I would say so. There's a general shift, especially,
In
and
mentality.
it's a shift in mentality, and it's also a shift in like the willingness to go out there and seek for yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas historically speaking, traditional martial arts had a very set hierarchy, right? And then with the information age, you can just go on YouTube and find any other video that you
That's a
want,
thing too. I think that's a huge impact.
So a lot of people are like, why am I not doing this? That this guy said is karate, right? So there's that dynamic that's happening too.
Yeah.
And also like there's a lot of dojos that message us and claim like, yeah, good job guys, we've been doing this as well for the last decade. But the thing is, like, where were you on the internet?
Yeah.
And that's why that was one of the big things why we put ourselves out there.
Yeah.
Like as much love that we get as much hate as well.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you do from the videos that I see. And do you get? Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Please.
and it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I was gonna say, do you get caught up in it? You don't respond.
I texted the screenshots and we just laughed at it.
Yeah, because it's like, dude, like, number one, like, I don't know, like, it's like, I'm one of those people who, like, I choose whose words I value. Right? So, there's, like, this old, like, I don't know if it was, like, a Buddhist or whatever kind of saying or proverb that said, like, it's essentially saying, like, you know, I think like, there's some Christian text that says it too, where it's like kind of like, you know, if you visit hate upon me and basically it doesn't bother me, that's nothing but a reflection upon yourself.
100%.
Right? So I mean, there's a lot of people who say like just stupid stuff. It's
Hate
funny.
is gonna hate.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, you know, like Riley Freeman said, man, if they ain't hating, you ain't doing it right. So you have to I'm kidding, but
no,
like,
I was just gonna say,
it's
look,
kinda
you're putting
funny,
yourself on the internet today, social media and stuff. People hide behind it. They can be whoever they want.
It's
know?
pretty.
And,
It's
and it is
funny.
haters are gonna hate. Some
Yeah,
people just
it's
fine. They want to
Yeah.
jump on stuff, but of course you're gonna get criticism.
Yeah, you know, like back to the MMA thing. I don't understand like why anybody from that realm.
I don't get it either.
Like it's because it's kind of like martial arts in the thing that you do. The only thing is you don't have like a really systemized way to practice like anything beyond just the brawl and the fight.
Yeah.
Like the culture is different.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, very much so.
That's the thing that's really different there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like what we're pushing is like the exact same. It's
And
the
I mean,
exact same
the way they train is solid. I mean, like karate guys need to put some more resistance to their training.
Absolutely. Yeah, they need to be training more like MMA guys, quite frankly. I think I have my own theory, I think, where it comes from. If you look at the early days of UFC, the first few, when it truly was, you'd see up on the like, karate versus whatever, right? And they would go in there and go at it. I have a feeling that's where it was born, because then you saw the BJJ guys come in and just freaking destroy, or any kind of a grappling, whether it was a sambo person or a shoot fighter or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And then egos came into play. Again, this is my own theory. I'm thinking that people maybe were just a little bit, well, where's your karate now? It's
Right.
like, you know,
Yeah,
I thought you could take on 20 people and blah, 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 right?
I could see that. That
But that
makes
doesn't mean they
sense.
were the best representation of
Yeah.
karate
Yeah.
that was in there or doing.
And like we don't do sport karate, but look at Stephen Thompson in the UFC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a great example.
Yeah,
Steve Thompson's doing phenomenal.
And I told them yesterday, I was like, you know, every UFC, I don't see anybody fighting in the UFC who's not doing point karate.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not doing the Lao Kiai, but all I see is y'all bobbing in and out, tagging in and out, like
the evolution has gone.
Like if you haven't looked at what point karate looks like, it's that.
Yeah.
Like that is what that is. The only part that makes it beyond that is that you've learned how to do a single or a double leg. You know,
you can take a step beyond that. There's fighters now that are actually studying point karate.
Yeah, because they figured out, because somebody does a back kick and they're like, oh shit, you can do a back kick and a spinning back kick and it works. And it's like, oh yeah.
Well, that's another thing too. Like, you go back to earlier, like some interviews, some people that they talk about, well, this Taekwondo, oops, I'm gonna do this. This Taekwondo kick is never going to work, or this karate move is never going to work. It's this blah blah blah. And now you're actually seeing that stuff happen. Now you'll see like a Kyokushin tornado kick or something that actually knocks someone out, and they're like, oh shit, that can work. Or a jump spinning hook kick, or a simple other.
It's how good are you at throwing it? Like
it goes back to the person, right?
Yeah, it's you know, if a lot of people, the problem with throwing like those big flashy kicks is, well, you spend your whole life throwing it in a vacuum.
Right.
When you're throwing it like on a human being, a lot of people don't recall it. You have to like actually rotate into the person. Like you can't. You can't jump up and spin and throw the kick there. So like pushing your hips towards the person while you're throwing the kick is of the utmost importance for you to be able to connect. And a lot of people just have never had to do that or do it on a regular basis. So you know they're kicking like water bottles and stuff and it's standing.
The good thing about MMA is like they evolve out of necessity too, right?
Right.
Because one karate guy or one taekwondo guy is successful, and now they have to figure out that puzzle. Right?
Yeah.
But the cool thing about that is like you get a guy who grew up in that sport tagging type of society, and then teach him some takedown defense, and he's pretty much unstoppable.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we're starting to see it now.
Yeah, because it's like, what do you do if he's pummeling you like on the way while you're trying to take his leg? If you don't get him down, then you're gonna start taking a beating, right? Like, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, and that was the thing, like in the original like UFC, right? Like those people who got taken down so easily had never been taken down before.
Yeah.
Like they had never had somebody pull on their clothes, and it's like, you know. Like we've gotten it before, like, you know, the whole like did y'all do wrestling before and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, you know, all we did when I was a kid growing up was knock each other over and throw each other around.
Yeah,
that's what we spent my lunch doing from like elementary, middle school. I'm sorry to say, even a little bit in high school. Like was like literally making like pseudo gangs and being like, all right, bro, so you three against us three, let's see who's on top. Like, I mean, we would do that. That was for fun. So I mean, that kind of like tussling around. Like, I mean,
wrestling is very natural to a human. Like it's something that's born from caveman days, right? At a necessity, and I think it's interesting that it's coming full circle.
It's back in, man. So
and to your point around the evolution too. I mean, MMA, you see that it hasn't been around very long.
No,
it's just been a heartbeat, right? But the massive evolution. You look at somebody from today, even like 10, 15 years ago. There's no comparison, and they are cross-training. They are doing these things, and they're not. Nothing is a joke anymore. So, like I alluded to earlier, people make fun of a certain, like a Taekwondo kick or whatever the case. Not anymore. It doesn't happen. Now you'll see Conor McGregor learning sideways stances, Kibadachi, trying to do sport karate stuff.
Because it's like, why would you think bodybuilding wouldn't work?
Right.
Like, right, you're creating like a smaller surface area that you're pointing at your opponent. Like, standing that upright forward straight stance, like in the realm of Muay Thai, makes sense there. Yes. Right? Because that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you have somebody who's able to shoot for a double, well, you don't want to be standing up square.
Yeah.
I mean, you might want to do that for that split second that you're going to throw that kick, and then you've got to reset blade up again, right? Like, I mean, so everything's got to be way more fluid, way more dynamic, like switching between styles, switching between being like rigid and being like a sloth to being like a rubber band, you know, kind of stuff. Like, you got to be able to do that, like on a turn of a dime, right? So, yeah, it's interesting how that's like progressing. Like, it's going to be interesting to see like what the next
that's what I'm looking forward to too.
Thing to like hit somebody, you know,
where
like,
we're going.
Like somebody figures out like doing like you can apply like a German suplex, right? Like somebody actually does it. Yeah. And they're like, oh crap, you can do it in here. It's like,
I think it's gonna be leveraging your chi.
Kamehameha or something.
On that thought, and we'll try to wrap it up because I know you guys got to get out of here. Sport karate versus application, or I don't know what else to call it. Where do you stand on that?
They're great athletes. We don't do it, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
I said like today I don't want to disparage like any system, right, or anything like that. When we're trying to discuss like application karate, stuff like that, like the world in which we're discussing it is markedly different from the sport arena.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when we talk about it, I always try to make sure that I tell them like I'm not saying that if you can dart in there and punch somebody square in the throat before they can do anything else, then do that.
Yeah.
Right? Then don't tie them up, right? Like if you can do that, it's just a lot of times that's not what happens, right? So you need to know all the other stuff. Like, if you can dart in and you hit him and he's out, hey, fucking awesome. Yeah. But a lot of times they don't work out that way.
Right.
So if you only train for that one thing, then the guy who actually knows how to grapple puts you on your ass and you're fucking done, right? And that's where it's over. So I tell them like, don't forget how to strike. Keep all that stuff up, but make sure you're doing everything else to be a complete martial artist.
Mm-hmm. Never forget that.
Yeah, never forget that stuff. Yeah.
Any parting words? Anything you want to let?
Well, thanks for finding us.
Yeah, man. It's cool.
Stalk you later. Thanks for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, right on. It's totally cool.
I think you guys are destined for some big stuff for what you're doing. I really, really do. I think there's a no, I mean it honestly. I think there's a super, super appetite. I'm not alone. Trust me.
Cool.
There's a massive appetite for this to bring it back. I like it, to make karate dangerous again, or whatever Terry had said before. I think you got, and what's you had a little
bringing back the old ways.
Yeah, which is very, very similar. So good luck with it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your talk. Thank you.
You too. Thanks, guys.